Do you remember when we hired David Ritz?
I sure do. I remember, first of all, that we joined the ORCA board. I was vice chairman and you were treasurer. You always like to get close to the money.
And I remember our first big job was to hire a new city manager.
That's true, and we looked around and finally decided to hire a headhunter.
Some headhunter this guy was. He gave us 9 candidates. 5 couldn't speak English and 3 were over 70.
All we were left of was this kid, David Ritz. He was the city manager of Pineland, Florida. Ever heard of Pineland?
Yeah, who in the hell ever heard of Pineland?
I actually looked it up a couple of months later, and the village closed. They couldn't even find a manager.
And you remember that video he sent us?
Check it out, party people, yo, GAP. And as you know, I'm Cool FB. See, we here today to talk about pollution. And as you know, it's a bad situation. Well, word up, Pete, and they do present waste in the world that ain't legit, pure garbage. And I say that's true. I really wanna ask you what they trying to do. Well, I don't know. Your blood must don't pump.
In the future, this world will be a big dump.
A big dump? A big dump. Yo, sometimes I think that we're never gonna stop it. But there's a way. The way is very vital.
Everyone get together and recycle.
And he even sent us pictures of what he thought public safety was all about.
I thought that was a pretty long reach,
But he was all we were left with, and we were darn lucky to get him. Do you remember what Ocean Reef was like back then?
the developer raised the dues 50%, and they painted the whole place Pepto-Bismol pink.
The people were mad as hell, I remember that. Nobody paid their dues, people wouldn't eat in the restaurants, neighbors were mad at neighbors. It was a real mess.
Harbor Course and the Anglers Club made out like mad.
It actually saved both of those clubs.
If you remember, we had that contested election just before we hired David Ritz.
I'm not sure we ever told him about that.
Probably not. Just 3 months later, in August of 1992, Hurricane Andrew hit Ocean Reef. But David Ritz got hold of us. He went all the way out to the bridge on Card Sound Road with a satellite phone and called us. And we were at Ocean Reef the next day.
And what a mess. There wasn't a leaf to be seen for miles. Most of the homes in town were damaged. We had no water, no telephone service for weeks, no air conditioning. It was a real problem for David.
It was a trial by fire. And we had more than one fire going.
The tonnage of landscaping was so great, we really didn't have any place to take it. Certainly not in Dade County, which was overwhelmed with debris. So we brought in these hot air incinerators and set them up. And basically it allowed us to take the debris to a central area and under extremely high heat conditions, burn the debris right here at Ocean Reef.
The National Guard was patrolling the streets. The only food we had to eat that night, as I recall, was stuff we cooked on a gas grill at the Racket Club.
That was both good and bad from Hurricane Andrew.
One of the good things was David was able to create a whole new community plan.
He hired Raymond Jungles, a great architect, to redo the cityscape. He did the signs, landscaping, lighting. It made a whole difference at Ocean Reef.
The other big advantage that came out of the hurricane was the fact that it created a pressure point to complete the negotiations with the developer to buy the club.
We raised $56 million and write bylaws and all other details, and we did it all in 60 days. And David Ritz, he did so much during this period. I don't know what we would have done without him.
It all turned out pretty well, though. By March, the place was cleaned up. We'd completed the buyout.
And we had one hell of a party, didn't we? And David Ritz, he did so much during this period. I don't know what we would have done without him.
David did a wonderful job for us back then, and he's still doing a wonderful job today.
Congratulations, David.
25 years
and going strong.